Hi everyone, this is Mara from the Bruce Trail Conservancy, and today I'm going to teach you how to contribute to the Bruce Trail Conservancy's iNaturalist project, a citizen science project. The Bruce Trail Conservancy's mission is preserving a ribbon of wilderness for everyone forever along the Niagara Escarpment. The iNaturalist project is a great way for us to collect more information about the plants and animals that call the Niagara Escarpment home and to inform our different stewardship projects and objectives. It's also a great way for Bruce Trail users to connect with each other over nature and share information with each other about what they're finding along the trail. So we encourage you to get involved in our iNaturalist project and see what it's all about. Just a few project guidelines before we get started. The goal of the project is really to collect information about organisms that are living right along the Bruce Trail. And so we ask that you submit observations that would be visible or audible from the trail. So if you're not sure if an observation kind of falls within what we're looking for in our project, just think about whether you saw it or heard it while you were along the Bruce Trail, whether that was on the main trail or one of our side trails. Another guideline is to please just take only photos and leave only your footprints. So we just ask that you don't move or disturb any plants and animals while you're out there observing them, and to just stick with taking photos and videos if you'd like. And finally, at least for now, we're asking that you follow all public health guidelines and consider staying close to home and hiking on your local trails near your home. So with that, I'm going to go over the basic steps that you need to take to join iNaturalist, make an observation, and submit it to the BTC project. So the 6 basic steps that we have here are first that you're going to need to go to iNaturalist.org and make an iNaturalist account. Number 2 is, if you'd like, you can download the iNaturalist app on your smartphone. The app isn't required to make observations, as you can do everything on the website, but it's pretty handy to have while you're on the go. Number 3, if you want to join the BTC project, you'll have to email our volunteer coordinator, Megan Kroll. Her email is mkroll@brucetrail.org, and you can just send her an email with your iNaturalist username and let her know that you'd like to join the project. Megan will then send you an invitation on iNaturalist to join the BTC project. Step 4 is to accept your BTC project invitation, and then you're ready to go, start making observations and adding them to our project. You can make as many observations as you like and add them to the project, and we're very happy to collect all observations you may have from along the Bruce Trail. Well, these are the basic steps. There's many smaller steps within them, and so I'm actually going to jump onto the website and show you as we go along what the different steps are to make an observation and submit it to the project. So I'm going to just switch screens here. So if you type iNaturalist.org into your web browser, you'll land on this home page. And you can see that there are a few different options you can take from this home page. You can sign up, learn more, or on the top right-hand corner, you can log in if you already have an account. So if you haven't made an iNaturalist account yet, you're going to want to sign up. So you'll click the sign up button here, and you'll just follow the steps that are listed in order to make an account. Really, all you need is to provide an email and then create a username and password, accept a few of the terms and conditions, and then you can create an account. I already have an account, so I'm going to switch over to that now to show you what it looks like once you've made an account and logged in. As I mentioned before, you can log in from the home page right up on the top right-hand corner. So I'm going to switch screens once again to show you what it looks like once you've logged into your account on the website. So when you log into your account on the website, you'll come to a page that looks something like this. And this is your dashboard, and it sort of contains all these different options that you can use to make observations, edit them, look at other people's observations, and much more. I should mention that I'm showing the website here before the app just because the website does have some more capabilities that you can't really access on the app. So as I mentioned, the app is great for on the go, but if you want to upload quite a few observations or you want to view other people's observations, I recommend using the website on your computer. So once you've made an account, you've logged in, and you've emailed your username to mcroll@brucetrail.org, you're ready to accept your invitation to the BTC project. You should be able to find your project invite under this update section on your dashboard. You can see that it'll be defaulted to all updates, and as you scroll down, you can see updates from people that you might follow, observations that you may have already made, etc. So what you're looking for is an update related to the BTC project. And if I scroll down, I can see it here. It says, Kroll invited you to join Bruce Trail Conservancy. So you'll click the Join This Project button. And you should have joined the project. So let's just see if this worked. So I can tell what projects I'm a part of if I scroll back up and I click the Projects tab on my dashboard. So let's see if I successfully joined the project. I'll go to Projects here, and I can see all the projects that I'm a part of, and I can see that Bruce Trail Conservancy shows up. So I know that I'm now part of this project. This is actually another way that you can accept your project invite, is if you go to the Projects tab and then click the Manage Your Project Invitations button. I'm just going to show you the Bruce Trail Conservancy project really quickly so that you can see what it looks like before I show you how to make an observation and submit it. If I click on the Bruce Trail Conservancy, it pops me to the project page. You can see that as of today, we have a little over 11,000 observations of 1,454 species made by 69 different people. If I scroll down, I see a map. And of course, all of our observations are along the Niagara Escarpment. So you can see these orange boxes start to show up of the different observations from the project. And you can click on any of these and explore the different observations that have been made along the Bruce Trail. I'll come back to that in a little bit, but now I'm going to go over how to actually make an observation and submit it to the project. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And there's a couple of ways that you can start making an observation from this dashboard. One is you can click this Add Observations button, or from any page, you can click this green arrow at the top right-hand corner of your screen. So I'm going to go ahead and click this green arrow, and it brings me to an upload page. So of course, the first step to making an observation is going out onto the trail and taking photos or an audio clip of something that you observe along the trail. There are a few ways you can do that. Most people do it on their smartphone. So I often go out with my smartphone, I take a bunch of photos, and then I would upload them onto my computer prior to going onto the iNaturalist website. A couple of things to note is that if possible, you'll want to set up whatever you're using to take the photos so that it automatically records the location where you took that photo. And it just makes it a little bit easier on you, although it's not a requirement. So if you're using your smartphone, make sure that your location tracking is turned on for your camera app. And if you're using a camera and GPS is an option, make sure that it's enabled. If GPS isn't an option for the camera that you're using, one option is that you can also take a photo of the organism with your phone just to track the location. And so then you can add the maybe not so good quality photo from your phone to better quality photos on your camera so that you can get both the location information and the photos that you want. Either way, once your photos are uploaded to your computer, you're ready to upload them to iNaturalist. You can either hit the Choose Files button, or you can just drag and drop your files. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop some files. Let's see here. Okay, and once you drop the files, iNaturalist will start generating the observations for you. I'm just going to give it a minute to load here. You can see that my pictures are just starting to load. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of scroll down and show you what this looks like. You can see that right now, each picture has been assigned its own little observation panel here. So the first thing you want to do is note that we really want only one observation per individual thing that you were looking at. So it's possible that you might have taken, say, 3 or 4 photos of the same plant. And so we want to create one observation that contains all of those photos rather than 4 different observations of the same plant, which is sort of the default that we have here. So for example, you can see that this observation, this one, and this one are actually all of the same plant, they're just different angles. And it's a great idea to take a few different photos of different angles because it helps people to identify what it is that you're looking at more easily. So for example, for plants, you might want to take a photo of the plant overall, as well as close-ups of the leaves, flowers, and stem. So in order to combine these photos into one observation, you'll first want to note that if you look at this box, it has a green outline, which means that that's the observation that's selected right now. If I hit Shift and then I click these other 2 boxes, we can see that now all 3 are highlighted in green. And then up on the left, the top left here, there's a button called Combine, and if I click that, it will combine those into one observation with 3 different photos. And now you can click through and see the 3 different photos. Okay, and whichever observation is selected, you'll see that there's a panel on the left-hand side where you can enter more details. So number 1, and a very important one, is that you want to try to enter what species it is you're looking at. So if I click in this box, before I even type anything, you can see that it says loading suggestions, and then it brings up suggestions for me. So this is great if you're not sure what it is that you're looking at. If you do know what you're looking at, you can type it in and then select the appropriate species. But if you're not sure, as I said, just click on that box and see what iNaturalist suggests from you. And it's using artificial intelligence and its database of photos that have been identified to try to find the best match for you. So you can see that it says we're pretty sure this is in the genus Baneberries and Cohoshes, genus Actea. And here are our top suggestions. And its top suggestion is red baneberry because it's visually similar to the photos that I uploaded and it's been seen nearby. And if you'd like to take a look at more photos of the red baneberry to decide if you think that's what it is, you can just click the view button in here. It'll bring you to a new window with more information. In fact, maybe I'll show you what that looks like right now. So I clicked the red baneberry, I clicked the view button, and it takes me to the red baneberry page. It tells me it's native to Canada. It gives me more photos that I can look through. And it also tells me the time of year when it's most often observed. And a really important aspect is that you can click on this map tab and it'll show you in those orange squares everywhere that it's been observed. And that's really helpful because if you notice that on the map, the organism that you think it is hasn't been observed anywhere near where you were, then that might be an indication that it's not what you think it is, or that you're looking at something potentially rare or newly introduced to the area. So that can be helpful for deciding on an ID. I'm going to click out of this page and go back to my observations. So I'm going to select red baneberry as what I think it is. And I'll just note that even if you're not totally sure, you can just select what you think is the best guess, and other people on iNaturalist among the community will come in and either confirm that they agree with your identification or they'll suggest a different identification. And so it's okay to be wrong, just do your best with your guess. Next, we want to let iNaturalist know when we observe this, so the date and the time. And you'll see that this has already been filled in automatically, and that's because iNaturalist has taken that data from my smartphone and just automatically filled it in. But if for some reason this doesn't show up or you want to adjust that, you can just go in and choose the date and time when it was observed. So this is helpful if perhaps you're using a camera that doesn't automatically record that date or the date's off for some reason. The third really important piece of information is the location, and I talked about this a little bit already. You can see that this has already been filled in, and if I click on it, it brings up a map where it thinks it is. You can see this red circle. it thinks that it's in the middle, and it's given me a little bit of a buffer around it, but it's pretty confident that it's within that circle. Again, it's taken that information from my phone because I had my location tracking turned on my phone. But I always like to double check just in case my phone's GPS was a little bit off. But in this case, this looks about right. You can see that this is the Niagara Escarpment here, and I was somewhere around here. If you wanted to do this manually or you wanted to adjust the location, you can just click on the map right there, and you can adjust the accuracy as well. So if you're not sure exactly where it was, but you think it was somewhere around there, then you can make the circle a little bit wider to accommodate that. But I don't actually want to adjust it. In this case, I'm pretty confident in my phone's GPS for this one, so I'm just going to hit cancel. Next, you can add any notes that you want. It's not a requirement, but maybe you saw insects visiting this flower and you want to note that down. Maybe you want to note that it was along the Bruce Trail that you saw this so that other people know that. So you can fill in anything you like in the notes section here. And the next thing it asks you to select is how you want the location to show up on iNaturalist. This is a public website. Anyone can go in and see observations. But if for some reason you don't want the location of this observation to be public, you can choose that. So you can choose to obscure it, which means it'll be just not quite so precise, or it can be totally private. And this is something you might want to think about if you're taking photos of more rare species that might be threatened by people foraging for them, for example. And so we don't want people to know exactly where they can go and maybe pick or dig up this plant. So that might be a reason why you would make the location private. If the organism is captive, so it's an animal in a zoo, or it's cultivated, so it's maybe a tree that's been planted in a certain area, then you would check this box. And I'll say that iNaturalist is more focused on wild organisms. So they're generally looking for observations of things that are not captive or cultivated, but this is an option for you. Just make sure you click the box. You don't need to worry about tags, but you do want to think about projects, because in order to add it to the BTC project, you need to do a little work here. So with projects, I'm just going to click the drop down arrow, and then you can see it's already given me some options of projects that I'm a part of that I can add it to. So I can actually just select Bruce Trail Conservancy, and it's now added it to that project. And you'll note that you can actually add the same observation to more than one project. So for example, sometimes I take observations of invasive species along the Bruce Trail. And so I would add them to both the Bruce Trail Conservancy project, but also the Invasive Species in Ontario project. And so now it's got both those projects listed for that observation. In this case, this red baneberry is not invasive, so I'm just going to exit that one and it'll take it out of that project. And when you're ready to submit your observations, you're going to want to go through this process for each of your observations, and then you'll click Submit. Just for time's sake here today, I'm going to just exit and remove most of these observations, and I'll actually select a few here. Actually, let's just take this one out for a second. And so I've selected a bunch, and I'm just going to remove those. It asks me to confirm. Okay, so I'm just going to work with these three for now. So I've already done the red baneberry. This is another plant, so if I select here, I get the same options on the left. I'm just going to do this one more quickly. I know this happens to be an alternate leaf dogwood, which is actually the first suggestion that iNaturalist brings up, so I'm going to click that. I'm confident in my date, time, and location. I'm going to keep my location public. And I'm going to leave the projects for now just so I can show you something else that you can do when you're uploading multiple observations. Finally, on the left here, you can see that I've uploaded an audio recording. So iNaturalist will accept both photos and audio clips as observations, because maybe you want to record the sound of a bird singing or frogs calling or something like that, because many organisms can be identified by sound as well. The way that I upload audio recordings is I take a video with my phone and then I just convert it into audio format on my computer. So just note that iNaturalist will not accept video formats when you upload. So it has to be an audio file or a sort of photo visual file. And I wanted to show you this one in particular because I wanted to show you what you can do if you don't know exactly what species it is. So this is an audio recording of a bird calling in a forest along the Bruce Trail, and I'm not actually sure what bird it is. And so if you're not sure, you can choose a more general identification, and then you can have the community try to narrow it down for you. You'll notice when I clicked in the box here that it didn't come up with suggestions, just because iNaturalist isn't set up to suggest IDs for audio recordings at this time. So in this case, you're going to have to type in what you think it is. So I don't know what kind of bird. I'm just going to type bird. And you can see that birds comes up as a class. So I know it's in the class of birds. So I'm just going to do that. And so I can see that even if I didn't know what species it was, I'm able to upload it as a bird and hope that other people can narrow it down for me. As an audio recording, it also did not automatically do the date. And so you'll have to check back on your phone or wherever else you took the recording to see what date this was. So I happen to know that this was this past weekend. It was at approximately, oops. I don't know why it's being weird. Oh, there we go. It was approximately 12:30 in the afternoon, and it also did not automatically record the location. And so I'm going to have to manually put in the location. And this is something that you could do if you knew generally where you were, but you didn't have your location tracking turned on for some reason. So I'm going to search for Crawford Lake Conservation Area, and I'm going to zoom out a little and then, oops, zoom in a little. And I know that my observation was somewhere around here. I'm going to give it a wider sort of buffer around because I'm not sure exactly where along the trail it was. And then I'll hit update observations. So now it's got a location there. I'll keep the location public. It wasn't captive, so all of that is good. And what I wanted to show you is that when you're uploading multiple observations, the website can make it easier for you because you can edit multiple things at the same time if they share certain information in common. So for example, I've already finished the red baneberry, but if I select this observation and the dogwood, I want to add them both to the Bruce Trail Conservancy project. And so with multiple observations selected, I can then go into projects, type Bruce Trail Conservancy, and I've added it to that project. So now when I go on to this one, I can see it's got one project that it's added to, and it's the Bruce Trail Conservancy. And when I go to this one, it's also been added to the Bruce Trail Conservancy. So that can just make uploading a bit easier if you have a lot of observations. Once you're done with all of your observations, you can hit submit 3 observations, and it's saving them. Just give it a minute. And then once you submit your observations, it'll take you to your observations page. And you can see now that those 3 observations have been added to my observations page. Okay, let me just see if I've missed anything. So that's the basic idea of how to add observations using the iNaturalist website. I'm going to go through a couple other options that you can take a look at on the website, and then we'll switch over to the app. So I just wanted to show you, you can see I'm on my observations page, and you can always get there using this top Your Observations tab on the website. And this is a great way to take a look at past observations that you had. And you can also edit observations if you need to. So for example, if you've already made observations in the past, but you hadn't added them to the BTC project, for example, you could go in and do that. Or maybe you realized that you didn't have the accurate location and you want to do that. So you can always click edit observations here, or you can click an individual observation. It'll bring you to the observation page and you can click edit over here. And if you scroll down, you can easily add it to a project just by typing the project in here. Okay, so that's how to edit your observations. And you can see that there's additional observation fields that you can do, for example, so extra things that you can add to your observation, and I'll let you explore that a little bit on your own. The other thing you can do is use the Explore tool to look at other people's observations. So if I click Explore, it pulls up a grid of recent observations. I can also use the map instead, and I could zoom into a particular location. And I can also search for particular species and use the filtering tools on the right-hand side. So for example, this is one that I did earlier, I'm wondering where I could find a particular plant. I can type it in here and it shows it to me on a map. And I can zoom in, I can click different observations, or I could use specific filters to say, I actually only want the twin leaf observations that were recorded during the month of May. I click that, I update my search, and now it's filtering that out for me. So that's a really useful tool as well. A couple of final things I'm going to show you is just viewing the BTC project and your stats on the project. So if you go up to community here on the top bar, and then you can see your recent projects. And if you don't see the one you're looking for, you can go to projects. You can search for any project here, so you can join as many projects as you like. And if I go back to the Bruce Trail Conservancy, search it, and click on it, it takes me back to the project page. And if I scroll down, now that I'm a part of the project, I can go to this tab here that says Your Membership. And it'll show you all of the observations that you've contributed to that project, as well as some stats. So I've contributed 102 different taxa, 156 observations, tells you how many are research grade, and etc. A couple other things to note. On the top right-hand side, you can see these are little alerts. So anytime someone adds an observation, adds an identification to one of your observations, it'll pop up here. So that's just a useful thing to keep track of. You can send and receive messages up here. And finally, I'm going to show you how to edit your account settings. And this is something you might want to do when you first make an account with iNaturalist, is just go in, check out your account settings, and make any changes that you'd like. So when I go into my account settings, the first tab is the profile tab. You can add a profile picture, and you can also write up a little bio for yourself if you like. Number 2 is account. You'll want to go in here, make sure that the time zone is set to where you spend most of your time. So if you're in Ontario, make sure it's set to Eastern time. And under iNaturalist network affiliation, you'll want it to be affiliated with iNaturalist.ca. That's sort of the Canadian version. The notifications tab allows you to control what you receive notifications for. And if you're like me and you don't like to get too many email notifications, then you can go in here and turn off email notifications altogether, or turn it off for certain types of notifications. So that's a good thing to check out, so that you're not inundated with a whole bunch of emails if you don't like that. The relationships tab is a place where you can search for maybe your friends on iNaturalist and follow them so that you can keep track of what observations they're making. Content and display. Most of these default settings are fine. Here you can decide sort of what kinds of projects can add your observations, or if you want to be the only one adding your observations to a project. And another important one you might want to look at is the licensing. So this controls the licensing around your observations and any of your photos. So if you want your photos to be copyrighted, you can choose that down here. If you want your photos to be under a Creative Commons license, I think that's the default, but you can check it out here. Or maybe you want no copyright, you want your photos to be in the public domain and easily shareable, and you can choose that here. The Applications tab just tells you what apps are associated with your account. So if you have downloaded the app and signed in on the app, that will show up here as well. So that's sort of a brief rundown of how to use the website and add an observation, and I hope that was helpful to you. And now I'm going to switch over to the app to show you that in a little more detail. So I'm going to stop my share for a moment. And I'm going to start sharing on my phone and we'll see how this goes. Okay, and then we're going to just go into iNaturalist here. So this is what the iNaturalist app looks like when you've just downloaded it off your app store. And just to note that I am using an iPhone here, but there is an Android version and it's fairly similar. So if you're using the iNaturalist app for the first time, it just sort of, you swipe through these screens and you can get a sense of what it can be used for. So we'll swipe through here. And once you've swiped through, you get to a spot where you can log in and it'll ask you, do you want to join iNaturalist Canada? So you can click OK to that. And then you can input your username or password. And as I mentioned, you can sign up right on the app. So you can see here it says new to iNaturalist, sign up. I recommend doing the sign up process on the website. It's just a little easier to set up your account settings that way. So I already have my account. So I'm going to go into username and enter my username and my password. And hit login. And when I log in, look, you can see it's already updated with those 3 new observations I just made. And it immediately takes you, actually, I'm going to try this other view to see if it's a little easier. Yeah, there we go. So I've just got my phone tilted on the side so you can see the whole screen. So you can see down at the bottom, there are 5 different main tabs. And right now I'm on the Me tab. That's sort of the default when you first sign in. And it basically shows you all of your observations and you can scroll through. You can click on an observation. Just taking a little while to load here. But if you scroll down, you can see there's the map. And on your observations, you'll notice a few different things. One is that right now we're on the little I information tab, but if I click on this little speech bubble in the middle, I can see that right now, this is for any comments or IDs that people will add. So if I scroll down a little, you can see that I've added the ID of Red Baneberry and no one else has commented at this point. But if somebody or myself wanted to add a comment or another identification, you can click the comment button on the bottom left or the suggest ID button on the bottom right. And this is how people will go around and confirm other people's identifications. And once at least 2 people have agreed on the identification, if I go back to the I button on the left and scroll down, once at least 2 people have agreed, it will upgrade my data quality from needs ID to research grade. And so research grade just basically means at least 2 people have confirmed the identification. And if there's more IDs, the majority of people agree with a particular identification. Okay. Whoops, sorry. Just gonna let that sort itself out. Okay, so I'm just gonna click on the top left where it says Mara M. I'm just gonna click that and go back to sort of the main screen here. So I should note if you want to use the app that in order to accept your project invitation, you can only do that on the website. So even if you're planning to use the app for the most part, make sure when you're going to join the BTC project that you go onto the website and accept your project invitation, okay? So once you've joined the BTC project, you'll want to make an observation. And the app can be used to make observations right in the field. And whether or not you do that will depend a little bit on your phone data plan. So I'm just going to show you the observation options, and I'll talk a little bit about phone data and different options. So the observe button is on the bottom in the middle. It looks like a little camera, and if I click it, it pulls up 4 different options. One is to make an observation without a photo. And that can be useful if you want to record that you saw something, but you didn't have time to snap a photo. Maybe it was a squirrel running by, something like that. So it's totally fine to upload those. The only thing is that the community is not going to be able to confirm your ID, and so it won't become a research grade observation. But that's totally fine. The second option is to take a picture right in the moment. So if I click the camera option, it takes me to a camera. And look, you can see my camera. Right now I have some plants on my desk that I'm showing. Because I'm in my office, I'm not going to use that option, and so I'm going to click cancel. Okay. If I go back to observe, the third option is the camera roll option. And so this would allow the app to access your photo album that's on your phone or your tablet or whatever it is that you're using. And this is the option that I use most often. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that I find that the camera, if I use the camera right within the app, it's a little harder to focus the camera. You can't crop photos and that kind of thing. And so I just find I get better photo quality if I just use my, my device camera and then go into my photo album after. The other reason I use the camera roll is to do with phone data. So I find it easier to just go out when I'm out along the trail, take photos then, and then come back and on Wi-Fi add my observations. You can add observations out along the trail without using phone data, but you will just need to upload them later when you get back. So you can add the photos, create your observations, and then when you come back, you'll go onto your iNaturalist app and click upload, and it will sync it with the website while you're on Wi-Fi. So that's an option as well, but just keep in mind that the artificial intelligence that iNaturalist uses to suggest identifications doesn't work unless you're connected to the internet. So for me, for simplicity's sake, it's just easier to go out and take photos and then access them later. And I'll show you how to do the observation using the camera roll in just a minute. I just wanted to discuss the fourth option, which is to record a sound. So if you are out along the trail, you hear a bird calling, you want to make an observation, you can hit the record sound button. And you'll just hit the green microphone button to start recording. And then if you're happy with the recording, you can hit the save recording button at the bottom. It's not going to let me do that right now because I'm recording using Zoom. So I'm just going to hit cancel on the top left. I'm going to click observe, and this time I'm going to access my camera roll. So you can see it pulls up my photo album. You can see I've taken a lot of photos of plants. And so I can scroll through and I can select up to 4 photos to add to an observation. And so just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 photos. And remember, these will all be for one observation. So I'm selecting 4 photos of the same plant in this case. And then on the top right-hand side, I'm just going to click add. And it will start creating the observation for me. And so you can see if you did have a lot of observations to make, it is a little slower on the phone because you can only add 1 observation at a time. So on the top, you can see the 4 photos that I have added. You can see that one of them says default. And so this is the photo that will show up first thing, like if people are looking at observations on iNaturalist. And if you want to change that, you can just click another one and it will switch the default. Then under what did you see, I'm just going to click this, and just like on the website, you can either type what you think it is into the box, or you can take a look at what it suggests for you. So it says we're pretty sure it's in the genus Myanthemum. and I agree. And then it says, here are our top suggestions. So if you want to learn more about the different plants to see if it matches with your plant, on the right-hand side, you see the little I button. And if you click that, it will pop up the species page. So you can scroll through the different photos on the top, and you can scroll down, you can read about it, and you can see the map of observations. And then once you've decided whether you think it's that or not, on the top left-hand side, just click back. And then you'll want to select what you think it is. So I agree with iNaturalist that I think it is Myanthemum racemosum, so I'm going to click that. You can see that that's now been added to my observation. And just like on the website, I have an option for notes. I have an option to adjust the date and the location. So if I click the location, you can see it's giving me coordinates, it's giving me the accuracy. And if I click that, this just looks like a bunch of trees because it's really zoomed in because my phone has pretty high accuracy for this photo. But if I want to double check, which I often do just to make sure it's not put me in some weird location, I can just zoom out. I can go, okay, yep, I can see I was near Twist Road, perfect. And I don't want to save the change that I've made because I'm happy with my phone's location. So on the top left, I would click cancel. If I do want to change it and then save that, I would click save on the top right. So I'm going to go with cancel on the top left. Geoprivacy is, again, just deciding whether you want to obscure the location of your photos. By default, it should be open, so I'm going to leave that. And then at the bottom, you can see projects. So this is where I would add to the BTC project. And in order to add it, you just on the left-hand side, hit the little toggle, and you can see that Bruce Trail Conservancy is now turned on. And again, you can add to more than one project if you like. So now I'm going to hit the back button on the top left, and I'm going to click share. And you can see that it's now uploading. And if you weren't on data, then there would be this option along the top where it says syncing to upload all your photos to iNaturalist. So if you were out along the trail, you didn't have data, then it would just sort of save your observation within the app. But then when you go home, you'd need to sync your observations once you are on Wi-Fi. Just going to give it a moment here. So just like on the website, you can, as I mentioned, you can view your observations under the Me tab. If you need to edit them, click on the observation, and then there's an edit button in the top right where you can pull up your observation and make any changes that you need to. Just like on the website, there's an Explore tab where you can look at other people's observations. It automatically defaults to a map view. All these little pins are observations, and if I click on a pin, it will take me to the observation. And if I scroll down, maybe I can see from the photo what I think it is. And so I can go on to the comment tab, which is the little speech bubble in the middle, and maybe I can suggest an identification by hitting the Suggest ID button. Or maybe I just wanted to take a look, and then I can hit the back button on the top left to exit out. Okay, the other thing that you can do on the app is you can look at the Activity tab. So that's the second from the left along the bottom. This is similar to your dashboard on the website. Oh, there's just a little bit of a lag here. Here we go. So similar to the dashboard on the website, you can see if people have added observation or added identifications to your observations, that'll show up here. On the top right, you can click News and you can see General iNaturalist News. And then the final tab that I haven't discussed is the More tab. So if I click More, there's some guides that you can take a look at. So these are lists of species. You can hit nearby and see if there's any guides for things nearby. Doesn't look like I have any. Or if I go back, I can click projects And again, I can go to the different project pages. And you can see iNaturalist is giving me hints because it thinks that it's the first time I've used this. So that's helpful too if you're a first-time user. So got it. And if I click Bruce Trail Conservancy here, again, it takes me to the project page. One thing that I don't think I mentioned when I was on the website about the project page is another fun thing you can do is look at who else is contributing to the project. So you can see in this white bar, right now it's on observations, then there's species, and then observers. And if I click on observers, I can actually see who is making observations on the project. And observers are ranked by how many observations they have submitted. So our top ranked observer is Jeremy Graves, who has over 3,000 observations. If you scroll down, you can find yourself. There's me, I'm number 13. I've made 157 observations to this particular project. So that's a fun thing. If you're more of a competitive person, you can try to work your way up the rankings. And if you're not competitive, that's fine too. Okay. So I think I've gone over what I wanted to go over in the app. I just want to mention that there are other apps out there that can be used for identification. In particular, iNaturalist has sort of a partner app called Seek. And that's a really fun one because it'll allow you to identify things while you're out on the trail without using phone data. So if you just want to kind of know while you're walking what something is, Seek is a really fun one to use. It just doesn't record and sort of report the observations the same way as iNaturalist. So if you want to contribute to the BTC iNaturalist project, you'll want to try out iNaturalist if you can. So I'll just mention a few other key things. Let me just unshare this screen for now. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to our main screen here. So thanks so much for listening. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I hope that it inspires you to get on iNaturalist and join our project and make some observations. I should mention that we also recently did a webinar a few months ago about all of our observations to date, so you can check that out on the Bruce Trail website, brucetrail.org. If you need more information, you need a little bit of help, or if you want to join the BTC project, make sure you email Megan at mcroll@brucetrail.org. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope to see your observations on the BTC project soon.